Hello everyone, in today's video we're gonna do caffeine extraction from coffee. So first of all, I weighed out 30 grams of ground coffee in a beaker. Then I prepared some sodium carbonate by decomposing sodium bicarbonate, also known as baking soda, on a hot plate for a few minutes. Then I added about 200 milliliters of water to the ground coffee, and of course while that was going I decomposed the baking soda into sodium carbonate. And you see why that was important later, because I added the carbonate to the filtered coffee. So after I steeped the coffee for a few minutes, I filtered, and you can see it's a very concentrated dark coffee. And to that I added some sodium carbonate. Not bicarbonate. Well, bicarbonate could be used, but sodium carbonate is a lot more basic, which is what we want, because the basic pH will help to freebase the caffeine, since caffeine is in its protonated or, well, neutral form. If we protonate the caffeine, it becomes more, if we deprotonate the caffeine, it becomes more soluble in organic solvents, which we're going to use to extract it. So we added the the coffee solution to a separatory funnel, and now I will add 25 milliliters of ethyl acetate, which is the solvent of choice. Ethyl acetate doesn't mix with water, and it's less dense than water. As you can see, it's floating at the top. Ethyl acetate is not the best solvent for caffeine, but it is relatively good, considering that it's relatively non-toxic. It's a safe, green alternative to other more toxic solvents like chloroform or dichloromethane. But if you have those, you can use those, definitely. I just didn't have them around, so I used ethyl acetate. And here you can see me agitating the separatory funnel. Usually you want to agitate relatively vigorously, but not vigorous enough to form an emulsion, because if you shake too much, you will get very hard to separate emulsion out of the funnel. So it will be very hard to separate. And here you can see the two phases have finally separated after a few minutes. And now I'm going to drain the lower aqueous layer into a beaker. It's important to know that the upper layer is the organic layer and the bottom is the aqueous layer. And that will depend on the solvent. If you're using dichloromethane or chloroform, the lower layer will be your aqueous layer. And here I will add a little more ethyl acetate that was from the previous extraction into the sep funnel, and as you can see the aqueous phase goes to the bottom. And I try to remove as much as possible before I transfer this to a round bottom flask for distillation, because as of now we have extracted the caffeine effectively, but now I'm going to distill off the ethyl acetate to actually recover the solid caffeine, hopefully. As you know, ethyl acetate will just evaporate away and we can recover the caffeine. So here you can see the flask being heated on a heating mantle, and slowly I distill off the ethyl acetate. To be careful also not to heat it up too much, because caffeine can burn and that will pretty much destroy the product. So we want to make sure it doesn't burn on the mantle. After most of the ethyl acetate has been evaporated, I added a little bit of ethanol to redissolve the caffeine. Of course, that's after it has cooled down and everything. I dismantled the distillation, and unfortunately we didn't get any caffeine at all. I pretty much burned it, but well, that was the video. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe. See you next one.